Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L. Hey, coming in with the mostly weekly Q&A. It's a pretty good one here this week. This week we only have 3 questions. One of them is a joke question, but we only have 3 questions. It's not so bad. It's nice to have an easy week sometimes. But yeah, overall 2 very interesting questions and 1 throwaway question. So let's just get into it. I'll start with a throwaway question. Why are you so #road to 100 gay? Only because it's you, TGC. Only because it's you. Okay, it was a funny joke. I set myself up for it. Whatever. I at least like to support confidence. Anyway, now let's get into the serious ones. That was a really easy one to get out of the way. The first one is coming from Edgar Herrera. Hope you put this in your next Q&A done. But have you watched or read Hunter Hunter? And if you have, what are your thoughts on it? And you make cool videos. Well, thank you, Edgar. Thank you very much. Man, what a nice person. Anyway, yeah, Hunter Hunter. So my status on Hunter Hunter, I started the manga at around the right when they were starting the Dark Continent. So right where the anime ends, I started the manga there. But here's the thing, I started the manga there first, and then I retroactively caught up more or less. Then I went to the anime, started the anime from the beginning, and went up to Greed Island. So there's still a chunk of material that I haven't properly read at this point in time, but I just supplemented the information of the manga between TV tropes and the wiki. I pretty much just supplemented the information for the manga from there, and then I'm just kind of reading it. That said, I don't cover it on the channel because if people find out that's how I got into the manga, nah man, my credibility shot through the floor. Although I think I'm good enough to understand like a lot of it. The thing is with Hunter Hunter, and this is interesting because Hunter Hunter, I did the same thing that I did with series like Toriko, and there was another Shonen Jump series that I did the same process with, where I just picked it up wherever the manga was and just went into it. Hunter Hunter is not built for that type of reading pattern. Something like One Piece and at the time Toriko were way more easy to do that kind of thing with. It Hunter Hunter was a little bit hard, such that even though I read some of the synopsis for some of the missing material, I had no real good idea what exactly had happened. So Hunter Hunter is like just a thing that I'm doing on the side. I'm just slowly catching up to it. Honestly, I'm not super invested with it. My thoughts on Hunter Hunter now, at least for the Dark Continent moving forward, it's like, it's a lot of narration, and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it. I know other people really applaud the narration, and I really should be applauding the narration too, because it really fits a lot of my criteria, like, oh, this is a very convoluted series, very complicated power system. That's good, that's like a lot of meat to go into, but from an entertainment perspective, I think the narration just really takes it out of me. The narrator is just so long-winded, and I do appreciate some of the things it does, but right now on the boat, the narration just goes on for too long. And I think this is also partly having to do with the horrible hiatus schedule, because the narration's happening so often. It's presenting you a lot of information all at once, and once that hiatus starts, it's very easy to forget. So seeing how much there's things that I definitely, absolutely 100% enjoyed in Hunter Hunter. Like, there was one spot in the anime where I just did a full marathon because I was trying to watch it at an episode at a time at that point, and I just really loved it. I just went for a full run through. It was really good. There also, anything involving Hisoka is also very entertaining and fun to watch. So thinking about it, I think Hunter Hunter is the kind of thing that I would feel more comfortable reading all when it's done, or at least when a full arc is done, because then at least I don't have the issue of my memory slipping from me when I'm going between chapters. But otherwise, at the point it is now, it's kind of unfortunate. Hunter Hunter is definitely a series I think can be super enjoyable, especially because when the narration is there, if you just have everything happen one after the other, not having to wait the week or even the 8 weeks, it'll be a fine experience. I also respect the author for Hunter Hunter, not as a fan, because as a fan he's terrible, but just as a guy who can admire someone's money-making ability. I think he's got a pretty nice deal there. There's not many people that can afford to take as long as hiatus as he does and then come back and just be allowed to just come back. That's a really nice deal. I gotta respect that. So overall, Hunter Hunter, I think it's a good show. I think it's a good series. I think it has its moments where it's amazing. Just right now, the current hiatus schedule is not helping my enjoyment of it. And as for people that say that Hunter x Hunter is the absolute best thing ever, yeah, I can see why they would say it on a technical level, but I just don't get the sweeping kind of emotion that I get from other series. I think one thing that happens with Hunter x Hunter is because you have that aspect like the narrator, and then you have the aspect of the long drawn out scenes. It just doesn't really have that feel of adventure for me, you know? I think there is some value in the more simple variation like One Piece. You know, I think that sense of exploration and discovery is a bit more prevalent there, whereas Hunter x Hunter is it's a rewarding experience. I think it's very hard to feel cheap. It's very hard to feel like you were cheated out of something with Hunter x Hunter. Besides the hiatus are probably the biggest cheat for Hunter x Hunter. Okay, moving on. Overall, like, I have a nuanced opinion about Hunter x Hunter, but I don't think it's bad. I just don't talk about it on the channel because I don't think I have much of a... It wouldn't be good for me to just jump in like that. Okay, so then we go into Rhiname the Weeb. And Rhiname, I'm totally fine with your questions. Don't worry about it, especially because you give the non-Hero Academia questions now, so I don't really mind. Anyway, I'm just gonna read out his question because it was really well written. Despite the villainous nature of the residents of Nazarick, okay, for the record, this is an Overlord comment or an Overlord question. They're all generally well liked, especially the Floor Guardians. Do you think that seeing these characters perform more and more cruel acts like killing the members of Foresight will change public opinion for the worse over time or make them even more loved by the community? Personally speaking, do you see yourself falling out of love with these characters for these reasons in the future? Alright, so this is a really interesting question because this has to do with terrible people and people rooting for terrible people. Look. Okay, how do I tackle this? Because there's a difference between not liking characters but appreciating characters, right? I think like one of the things with Overlord that I don't really care for, and one of the things that made it really hard at the beginning to get into Overlord, like especially in season 1, was just at the end of the day, these are kind of terrible people. And I shouldn't be saying kind of, but it's just fact. They're terrible people. I'm just trying to think how I want to structure this. Alright, look, this is how I'm gonna start with the one with my personal feelings about it first. Do I see myself falling out of love with these characters? No, I've already fallen out of love with the majority of the characters. For instance, the worst one of them all right now is Albedo, because she is useless, narrative-wise. I know that not the manga fans, the light novel fans have told me that she has a character arc and she has something being written for her, and I can see it too. I see it there whenever we're talking about the Eins Olgaun flag or whatever. That said, Albedo is just too much in the background. She's just not that great as a character. She can't stand on her own. That's why when we had that first episode of the 3rd season, it felt really good because it was like, I know it's the short stories, but at least give me more of Albedo, right? But overall, I've already kind of fallen out of love out of the evil aligned characters. Sebas isn't evil aligned. He's just working. He's just loyal to an evil man, right? There's a few more in Nazarick that also aren't evil aligned, and what happens to them after they speak out about the inhuman treatment, you know, it just makes me like those characters more. Because one thing here is just, I personally can't get behind rooting for someone who is okay killing kids. I personally can't get behind someone who is okay who is okay like kidnapping women and children, right? And wanting to put them either to slave labor or kill them, and then having to get stopped by his own subordinates, right? I'm personally not very into that. It's very hard to get behind that kind of mentality, right? But here's the thing. This is a story. It's fiction. This is the only time where someone could realistically say like, yeah, I'm okay with a child murderer, right? Because that doesn't fly anywhere else in the world. So look, from the very beginning, people like Demiurge especially, I don't have a personal affection for him. Now, on the matter of appreciating the character and again appreciating the fiction, yeah, man, like, look, Overlord's a novelty in the fact that you're following really villainous people. And one thing that was happening earlier on, until we have like critical moments like even the workers being killed, was that people weren't as affected, and I kind of fell into that category. No, not kinda, I did fall into that category, because we had that whole little bit where people just went missing from the kingdom, and we know what happened. Those are otherwise innocent people, because they don't get screen time, they don't get that much of an impression in our minds, right? But like the Overlord crew, they're not people you can realistically get behind, unless you're doing it from the safety of reality looking into fiction. Anyway, because they're a novelty, I could see people wanting to get behind them, because oh, it's really neat when we actually get to see villainous protagonists, and they overall are very true to their nature. Demiurge by far is very true to his nature. Even a character like Sebas who was really interesting to see. Sebas just gets through with it because he has undying loyalty to Ainz, and that's a really interesting dynamic. Like overall, there are some really interesting dynamics that you don't get to see if they were good people. Not only that, you have Ainz, who is legitimately having his emotions restrained, so he's not acting with the most human empathy. And then we look, the thing is, if anything bad ever happens to the Overlord crew, the only ones who I'm gonna feel bad for are Albedo's sister, Pestonia, and then Sebas and Suare. Probably those are the only four that I will actually legitimately feel bad for. Ainz can go shove it, Demiurge can go shove it, Albedo can go shove it, Shaltir can definitely go shove it, HxH, well, it depends on how much. It depends. It depends on HxH, honestly, because he's kind of a weird one. Victim? Well, Victim, it's better if Victim doesn't die in general, so let's just leave him alone. Yeah, man, it's just I'm totally okay seeing them win. I'd be totally fine also seeing them suffer extremely. I wouldn't really mind it, because at this point, some of them have earned it, some of the other ones haven't. That said, even I still sway on this a lot. I think it's a really good mark on the author, because the author is able to do things to make you get endeared to these characters, and then you have those critical moments like that episode 8 of season 3 where the horrible things happen to Foresight, right? And remind you like, oh yeah, these are really terrible people. And it's just, the author is really good at it, right? Because even when they're having the little moments between the floor guardians, like when you look at their interactions as just floor guardians, you can see the friendship. Like I love in season 2 Demiurge and HxH. Like Demiurge was urging HxH along and helping him, giving him hints, letting him become more of a letting him make his decisions, and that's really cool. And there are endearing things like the rivalry between Shaltir and Albedo, right? Like these are little humanizing qualities that work to ultimately make you forget about what these characters are, and that's really neat. Like heck, even season 3 episode 1 had the really funny declaration that Albedo is a virgin, and that's like, okay, that's funny, that's really funny. The author uses these moments that you don't get to see with normal villains, or like, you know, just the one-dimensional villain. Like you usually don't get to see moments like that where the villains actually have relationships, and it's through the relationships that they gain these qualities that I think people can get behind. It's through their little dynamics. Like I don't think many people are gonna speak ill of Demiurge when it comes to how he supported HxH during his little arc, right? Because it was nice. But it's this problem. People, I think, because they're getting to see this other side of the villains, they're going to be more sympathetic to what the villains do in the future, which I think is an incorrect. I don't think that's I think it's okay to be mindful of that the villains aren't aren't one-dimensional, but like if you were getting into an argument about the morals of what they're doing, or if they deserve to be punished, I don't think you can make the argument, nah, they deserve to get scot-free. If they're gonna get away with everything, they better put in a lot of effort, is where I'm coming into this particular argument. So in regards to the change of public opinion, do I think these characters will cause a change of public opinion? Honestly, no. No, I think if you like them, you like them. I don't think that's going to change. I think there's going to be little hiccups, but you're ultimately going to say, oh, well, no, they're the villains, right? Again, the author is really good at drumming up interest in his characters. He's proven this. He can do it with the side characters, and depending on what you're into, it'll work, and sometimes it won't. But he's really good at doing it with the side characters, and he knows that it's all based on how the characters interact with one another that makes the characters appetizing or just nice for readers. So I don't think public opinion is going to change for them. I think if people are staunch Overlord fans, they're going to continue being fans. And I think the community is going to keep loving them, because there is something novel in the fact that Ainz went through with killing that girl, right? There is something that can be respected in the fact that the author went that far. And that level of respect, I think, is going to be thrown in there, and it's going to kind of blend in with the admiration or the like for these characters. I mean, yeah, it's a nice thing that the author has done. Ultimately, he gives those characters extra flaws, and then he lets the characters help each other out of their problems that the flaws like produce. Even Albedo, like even Albedo, with the amount of screen time she gets and the lack of character development, the fact that she has that whole little thing with Ainz, that whole little like love affair kind of thing, that she's a bashful maiden kind of thing, you know that's going to endear her to someone else's heart. And it's just, I think the author has created a pretty interesting storm. I am very interested to see what kind of reactions we're going to get in the future. I would love to see how the community develops around it. But right now we're at a stage where Overlord's going to keep doing things, people are going to keep liking it, and it's going to mean that people on YouTube can keep making videos about, oh, this is why Overlord's so great. And, you know, it's just going to be a cycle. Anyway, guys, that was a little bit of a rant, but this is the first time I've ever talked about the topic about whether or not I really like, or my personal feelings about the Floor Guardians. But yeah, I hope that was a sufficient answer. Anyway, feel free to leave your questions down below, and yeah, till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.